Hello, everyone. Gary Husted here with G2 Home Services, and we are your kitchen and bathroom remodeling specialist. Today, I just wanted to take a couple minutes and talk to you real briefly about some common myths that we often hear when we're talking about remodeling. I've got some notes here for me, and one of the first things that pops up is a term that's used often in our industry, and it's called job creep. That's creep, CREEP. Basically, what it means is that the price on the job is creeping up. Essentially on any of these, especially when it's a larger project, the scope of work can start to get distorted and can gradually start to increase the scope of work, which in turn increases the cost of the project. Now, clients see this as an increased cost and budget. The biggest way that I can say that we do, the biggest thing that we do to kind of combat job creep is by doing a very detailed scope of work. When we do our price breakdown, when we're selling the job, we are very detailed in what it is exactly we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and why. And that's important to keep job creep down so the client slash homeowner customer understands what you're actually going to be doing in that process and the why behind that. If you do all of these things and you're transparent and you're open and you're upfront with the client, you can pretty much eliminate the job creep. Also, another way of keeping job creep under control is with change orders. A lot of people kind of run their business based on change orders. That's not exactly how we do things, but essentially, we come in, we put a change order in place, we put on the change order what the cost is going to be and how much extra time it's going to add to the project, and then we turn into that into the customer for approval. We don't do anything outside of the initial scope of work without a change order that's approved. And the reason being just because, like I said, we want to make sure that they understand the actual cost that's going to be involved in this and that they understand the time frame that it's going to add. That being said, if you go through this process and you start to see the job increase, change order, change order, change order, 9 times out of 10, change orders are things that are unexpected or things that were hidden when we were there to do the initial estimate. In my opinion, there shouldn't be a lot of change orders regarding the actual scope of work of the project if the salesman did their job correctly when they came out to bid your project. That can kind of go back and forth depending on how each process is done with the different contractors. But I know that very rarely have I ever had to go back to a client for something that should have been scope of work related that wasn't. Now, nobody's perfect, guys. Obviously, when we go out to a house, we start talking to a lot of people about a lot of different things, and sometimes things can be overlooked. That's kind of why we do our design phase ahead of time to make sure that everything that we are doing is in there. It's in black and white. You guys can see what the scope of work is, and that way, if you have any questions at that point, it can be addressed. Now, if it does get overlooked, we will have to add it on later, but we do a very great job of minimizing that, okay? Another thing I hear constantly about, and I'm going to call it price gouging, is the term that I've heard. But essentially, people say, or clients I've heard say, well, so and so came out and they tried to rip me off, or they tried to overcharge me for a project. In our industry, I think that there are obviously people out there that give our industry a bad name, but that's the exception, not the rule, guys. I think most of the people around, especially the guys that I know in the area, Templar and Home Love and those guys, I know that they go out with the best intentions, and that's all that we can all do is put our intentions first. Me personally, when we obviously have our fixed costs are by the square foot, we have a square foot cost. That includes labor and materials. And then we do have our markup that we put on for overhead and profit. That's it, guys. There's no science. There's no magic here that happens that we just come up with a number. It's all based on quantities, square footages, linear footages, whatever they are, to come up with the overall price. Now, each contractor has a different overhead. Each contractor has a different markup. And so that is what kind of distinguishes, but that's just based on their own business plan. The real thing is that I've noticed when it comes to those things where clients say, oh, I was being ripped off, or, oh, I think I was being taken advantage of, is a lot of people don't have a clear intent on what they're doing, or they don't have a way to vocalize what it is that they're going to do on your project. So while the scope of work may seem very small, an example of this that I get often is people call me and say, hey, can you come and retile my shower? Okay. Um, I personally, our company, we will not come and just retile a shower. Every time I've ever done this in the past, we've ended up tearing a rubber pan liner in a shower, causing damage to a substrate, or when we do get in there, there's mold, mildew issues from a previous leaking pan. And so it just causes too many disruptions in that way. So we don't ever just tile a shower. If we're doing a shower renovation, it's coming down to the the studs. We're going to check the insulation, make sure there's no water or moisture damage in there. We're going to install our Schluter Curdy system that we put on all our showers. That's a waterproof shower system. And then we're going to retile it. So a lot of the times when you have a client that says, oh, I can't believe it costs X amount of dollars to just retile a shower, 9 times out of 10, that's because the contractor has not explained the process. They have not told them what they're doing. They have not built value to the client, and that's why they feel that way. So that's oftentimes where that misconception is. And it's not, again, it's not anything that the contractor or whoever's out there is doing wrong. It may just be that they can't vocalize, or they're not getting their point across to the client. Okay. Um, Timeframes, guys. This 2021 world that we're in right now is a little bit crazy. Everything is on a setback. Everything is back ordered. Every job we're having materials that after we order them 2-3 weeks later, they're coming back to us and telling us they're not available. Okay. We are trying to combat that by ordering early. When we sign our contract, collect our deposit payment, the first thing that I do is start ordering materials and get some of these issues out of the way before the job ever starts. By the time we start demo on your project, everything that you picked out on that job will be in my warehouse, period. And that's to kind of help with those types of timelines. The other issues that we're seeing right now are with the municipalities as far as their permitting process. I don't know if it's any surprise to anybody else, but everybody is doing remodels right now. Everybody is doing room additions right now. Everybody is repairing their homes, partially because of the real estate market the way that it is, and also because of just in general wanting to improve. So I think, 2020, COVID hit, everybody was stuck in their home. I think that shed a lot of light on what people needed to do at their home, and that's what caused a lot of this influx. So we are dealing with the permit department. I know in Pasco, I'm waiting 6 to 8 weeks sometimes for permits, and that can kind of cause a delay in progress. A lot of clients will, well, hey, do you think you can get out next week, next month to do this project? Depending on what it is, there's absolutely no way. I know a lot of the other guys are booked out. I'm booked out in the next year already. It just depends on what your project is and the scope of it. But it can be daunting with dealing with these timelines right now and being a client and not understanding everything that goes into it. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about timelines here. Another thing is cost. Okay, guys. Obviously, every job is different. Every job has its own budget. Every project has its own price range. A lot of it depends on what type of materials you want installed, how you want them installed, what accessories you want. A typical kitchen renovation could go up by up to 30% depending on what accessories that you add to that, or more. So it just depends on what you guys are doing, and what you choose that adjust the cost. Part of the reason why we do our design consultation process here is just typically to keep that price where we want it. We come in early, we design everything out exactly as you want it. We give you the price for that project. And at that point, then you can decide what works for you. Hey, is it better that we remove this portion? Hey, is it better that we wait a little while to do this portion or do it at a separate phase? Or hey, maybe we just can't do it at all right now. And so that's kind of why we work through the cost the way that we do, but that way we can be realistic with it. We put a lot of our pricing on our website ahead of time. That way the clients can get on there and see what similar projects that are going to look like what they're after are running. And that way you can get a realistic idea. We're all about being transparent, being upfront, being open with our clients, and allowing them the opportunity to make the choice that fits them best. And that's what we want. We want to inform our clients, make sure they have all the knowledge that they need, and allow them to do what they need to do to make a sound buying decision. Okay. Contractors. Obviously, there's a bunch of different types of contractors out there. Whether you're the license holder, the licensed individual, whether your company was qualified by a licensed individual, you're still a contractor. You could be a subcontractor working underneath somebody else. There's a bunch of different terminology here that goes along with the contractors themselves. The things that you need to keep in mind when you're looking at and when you're looking into a company is what kind of value does that contractor bring to your project, period. It doesn't matter whether they use subs, doesn't matter whether they use in-house employees. It really doesn't matter, how often they're even there. I know there's a lot of contractors out there that they're basically the salesman. And after that, they're not really involved in the project too much. That's fine as long as they have the systems in place to operate your project smoothly, completely, make sure the quality is there, and to also make sure that the communication is there, guys. You get into these long projects and they start to drag out. You get past the 5-6 week mark on a project, and the clients are getting a little antsy. You start to notice that things are said, or hey, maybe one of the guys forgot to mention something to you, and you start getting a breakdown on communication, and it starts to make the client feel uneasy. So the biggest thing that you can do when researching a contractor is making sure that they're going to put your needs first. If you prefer to be emailed, make sure they'll email you. If you prefer to be text, make sure they're going to do the text. Make sure they're going to call you. Make sure that if they say, hey, I got the schedule, we use Buildertrend, the schedule comes in through Buildertrend. They say, hey, you don't have to call me every day, I got the schedule. Whatever it is that works, but make sure that that contractor's style will fit what you're doing. Guys, not everybody is a great match for everyone else, period. So sometimes we may go to a project, we may have 2 or 3 meetings, and we get through the process, and you might just decide that you don't like me, and that's fine. Ultimately, what we want is for you to be happy, for you to feel comfortable, and for us to feel the same way. I'm not going to take on a project where I don't feel like the client and myself can get along. I'm not going to take on a project where if the client and myself have different views on how the project should be done. Not saying that it's my way or the highway, but over the course of the last 10 years of building this business, I do know what works for us. And that's the way that we do things. We stick to those schedules, we stick to those timelines, and we do those along the critical path to make sure that everything that we are doing is done in that order. Regardless of timeframes, regardless of schedules, we do it that way to make the project come out the best possible way. Okay. And the last thing I want to talk to you about, I get asked this on every single estimate, every single proposal, every time I meet a client, the first thing that they ask me, one of the questions is, how much of a mess is this going to make? Okay, guys, we're remodeling. It's going to be messy, especially you get into drywall, demoing drywall, installing, sanding, finishing. All of those things are going to create a lot of dust. One of the things that we are great at is taking care of that dust. We have air scrubbers that we put on the job site to help pull the dust out of the air. We put a plastic visqueen on everything in the general area that's going to be affected. We have zip walls that we put up and kind of section off. If we're doing a kitchen or something like that, we'll section off that area. So that way we keep it from the rest of the house. Also at our pre-construction meeting, one of the things that we do is we walk around and check the filter sizes for the air conditioning. And the reason we do that is because we purchase filters and we replace those daily during this part of the process anyways. And so that way we can make sure that they stay clean, make sure that we're not affecting your air conditioning system. And also, if you keep that dust from getting into the AC system, then you're keeping that dust from blowing around other portions of the house. So we do all of these things in a way to keep the house being a mess while we're there. The other thing, obviously, we have our dump trailer when we're doing demo and things like that, but the team takes the debris with them every day after the project, and also cleans up every day after ourselves. So I've gotten many of compliments over the years about how clean we leave the job site. That's always our intent. To say that 100% of the time we deliver on that would be a lie. But we do always try our best to make sure that everything is clean, everything is taken care of, and your home is left in a way that we would want our home left after we leave your project. So guys, like I said, I just wanted to talk to you real briefly here about a few of the myths that I hear in contracting. Not every contractor is filthy. Not every contractor leaves a mess in the home. Not every contractor has a bad setup or bad systems. Not every contractor is price gouging you. Not every contractor is setting extended timelines or just pushing the job out. These things are things that can be addressed in the sales process and should be. And that's how we do business. So if you guys have any more questions about this, feel free to reach out to us. The number at the office here is 727-478-5279. You can always get us on Facebook, facebook.com/G2 Home Services. Thanks, guys. You're the best.